She had already poured the wine. 2 glasses, the good ones, the ones Tammy Abdallah only took down from the high shelf when something mattered. She was 31. She was happy. And she was about to tell Marcus Reed she had never in her life been happier. Then the phone lit up. Not a call. Not a knock at the door. A text. She read it once, and her brain refused it, the way a body refuses cold water, flinching before it understands. She read it again. The words did not rearrange themselves into something kinder. He was done. 2 years, and he was done, and he had not even given her the dignity of his voice. Her eyes caught on one line and stuck there, the line where he reached past everything they had been and put his hand on the one thing he knew would leave a mark. Her size. He said it plainly. He said he was tired of making excuses for how she looked. She had practiced this. An hour before that phone ever lit up, she had stood at her mirror rehearsing the little speech, smiling at her own reflection, back when the worst thing she could imagine was him not saying it back. He said it like it was her fault for ever believing he wouldn't. The glass was still in her hand. She did not remember picking it up. Something in her chest went very quiet, the kind of quiet that comes right before a building comes down. Her thumb moved on its own, scrolling, hunting for the part where he took it back. There was no such part. There was only the blue bubble sitting there, smug and final, and underneath it the little gray word that gutted her more than the message itself. Read. He knew she had seen it. He was watching it turn gray on his end, and he had still not called. Her fingers opened. The shatter against the floorboards was bright and wet, red spreading across the wood like something bleeding out. She looked at it and felt nothing, and the nothing scared her more than tears would have. Her heart was doing something strange, a hard, slow knocking. She counted it without meaning to. 62 beats a minute, slow as a funeral, while her whole life rearranged itself around 4 cruel sentences. She slid down the front of the couch until the floor caught her. He had not fallen out of love. He had been ashamed of her the whole time. The days stopped having names. She knew it was morning only because the gray line on the wall moved, and she knew it was night only because it disappeared. The cruel sentences played on a loop she could not switch off. Tired of making excuses for how you look, she had started saying it back to herself, in his voice, then in her own, until she could no longer tell whose voice it was. She stopped answering her mother. She caught her own reflection once, passing the dark bathroom mirror, and she did something she had never done in her life. She looked away from herself in shame. That was the moment the thing inside her got truly dangerous, the moment his voice finished its work and became her own. Time became the slow crawl of a battery dying on the nightstand, the only clock she still answered to. Her body, the body she had danced in and laughed in for 31 years, had become in her own eyes the reason she was alone in the dark. Mirrors stopped feeling worth it. She kept a dim path through the apartment that never passed her own reflection, draped a towel over the bathroom glass, and told herself she was managing. The phone had been ringing for 3 days. She had let it. Nia Carter was not a woman who accepted being let. Each missed call stacked on the last, a quiet tower of someone refusing to give up on a woman who had given up on herself. When the calls went gray and unanswered, Tammy should have known what was coming. Her best friend did not beg. Her best friend showed up. The pounding started at 9 in the morning and did not stop. It was not a knock. It was a fist, steady and furious, and over it came a voice Tammy knew better than her own, threatening to call the building manager, the fire department, and Tammy's mother, in that order, if that door did not open in 10 seconds. Tammy lay still and prayed it would pass. It did not pass. Then came the sentence that finally moved her off the bed. "I will tell him myself what he did," Nia shouted through the wood, "and I will make sure everyone knows." The lock turned. Tammy opened the door 3 inches and Nia saw all of it in one look. The scarf, the gray light, the smell of a room that had been closed too long. Whatever speech she had prepared died in her throat. She set the grocery bag down on the floor very slowly. Inside it was the small, ordinary kindness of a friend who had shopped for a woman too sunk to feed herself, fresh fruit and bread, and the herbal tea Tammy used to love. Then she stepped inside and pulled her best friend into her arms before the door had finished opening. And then Tammy broke. 3 days of nothing came out of her all at once, ugly and loud and shaking, and Nia held on through every second of it without once telling her to calm down. "You are not staying in this dark," Nia said. "Not for him. Not for anyone who ever made you feel like the problem." It was not a speech that fixed her. Nothing fixes that in a morning. But Nia stayed. She cooked the first warm meal that apartment had seen in weeks, steam rising in the new light, 2 bowls instead of a cold, untouched plate. She made Tammy shower. She sat with her in the silence when there was nothing left to say. And somewhere in the middle of the 3rd night, sitting on the kitchen floor with their backs against the cabinets, Tammy said the first thing in weeks that did not come out broken. She said it quietly, almost to herself, and it changed the whole shape of the story. If you are still with her right now, if some part of you is sitting on that floor too, then do something for me before we go on. This channel exists to tell stories like Tammy's, the ones that break you open and then put you back together, and they take everything to make. Subscribing is how you tell me it landed, how you tell me to keep bringing them. So if she has pulled you in, tap subscribe and stay in this with her, because what she says next is the moment she stops being a victim. "Never again," Tammy said. She did not say it loud. She said it the way people say things they intend to keep. "Never again will I let a man make me feel small for taking up space in this world. Not him. Not the next one." Nia looked at her for a long moment, then smiled, slow and dangerous, because she had been waiting 3 days to hear exactly that. "Then get up," she said, "because tomorrow we start." It did not look like a movie montage. It looked like work. The first morning she wanted to quit before she had laced her shoes. The first week her body screamed at her in a language she had forgotten it spoke. But the plate changed. Color came back into it, greens and lean proteins and water, always water. The notebook became a kind of religion. Every meal logged, every glass of water marked, a private ledger that answered the cruel one Marcus had kept on her body. The little check marks meant more to her than she would ever admit. She joined a gym she could not really afford. She picked it on purpose, the nicest one in the city, because Nia said you do not heal in a place that makes you feel less, you heal in a place that makes you feel like you belong at the top. 6 in the morning, the city still dark, Nia's fist already on the door, gym bag on her shoulder, refusing every excuse. There were mornings Tammy hated her for it. There were more mornings she would have drowned without it. The first time she walked through those glass doors, she was certain everyone was looking at her. Her heart was going at 140 just from the lobby. She almost turned around. She did not. The first day she lasted 20 minutes. The second day, 25. Nobody pointed. Nobody laughed. The thing she had been most afraid of simply did not happen. The treadmill was where the war was really fought. Not against the machine, against the voice, the one in Marcus's pitch that told her to stop, that she did not belong, that she should go home. Week by week the looping voice got quieter. Some mornings she did not hear it at all. Then the waits, then the early mornings, and a strange thing started happening inside her chest. She started catching her reflection on purpose now, in the long mirror wall, checking not for flaws but for the new strength setting into her shoulders. The two of them turned it into something almost like joy. Nia counting reps out loud, daring her to one more when Tammy swore she had nothing left, both of them laughing between sets like the gym belonged to them. Some evenings she stayed after Nia left, alone with the empty floor and the long mirror, testing the new truth of her own posture, the spine that no longer apologized. She did not know that the gym had a floor she would never be allowed on. Above the main level, behind a door most members never noticed, was a private section reserved for people whose names emptied rooms. She took the stairs because the elevator was full, the way she did every evening, and that small, ordinary choice walked her straight into the man who was about to upend her entire life. She was coming up. He was coming down. She had her earbuds in, her head down, and Marcus had crossed her mind 1 second before it happened, which meant her face was already tight with old anger when she rounded the half landing. She did not see him until they had already collided, her shoulder into his chest, her water bottle hitting the steel steps and bursting. "Watch where you are going," she snapped, before she had even looked up. She expected an apology. Instead, she got silence. The water spread between their feet on the steel steps, and for half a second neither of them moved, two strangers caught in the small, absurd disaster of it. She looked up into a face carved out of stone, dark eyes looking down at her with an expression she could not read, neither sorry nor angry, just still. Completely, infuriatingly still. "This stairwell is for members coming down from the private floor," he said. Not for going up. It was not even an insult. It was worse. It was indifference, the flat assumption that she did not belong where he stood, and it landed on the exact bruise Marcus had left. Everything she had been swallowing for weeks came up at once. If you are still here with her, still feeling your own pulse climb in the stairwell, do one small thing for me. Drop a comment and tell me you are still watching in your own words, or leave the single emoji that matches how the standoff is making you feel. Tell me where in the world you are watching from and what time it is where you are, because I always want to know who is living through this moment with her. And if you're watching on your TV, tap that like so I know you are in the room. She stepped up onto his step so they were eye to eye, close enough to feel the cold coming off the steel, and she told this stranger exactly what she thought of men who decided where a woman belonged before she had opened her mouth. For 1 second, the stone cracked. Nobody talked to Hyung-ji like that. Nobody had in years. She grabbed her broken bottle off the steps, told him to enjoy his private floor, and shoved past him down the stairs. He stood there long after she was gone. In a life arranged entirely around fear and deference, a woman had just looked him dead in the eye and told him exactly where to put his private floor. He did not even know her name. He found, to his own irritation, that he wanted to. Up on the private floor, the towel he had dropped lay forgotten on a bench. He did not go back for it. For the first time in years, his evening routine had been knocked completely off its rails by a stranger with a broken water bottle. She told Nia about him that night, expecting to laugh it off. Instead, she found herself describing the stillness of him. He sounds insufferable, Tammy said. He sounds rich, Nia said, and you described his jawline for a full minute. But that night, for the first time in months, the last face in her mind before sleep was not Marcus. The city, it turned out, was much smaller than she wanted it to be. She saw him 3 weeks later in a cafe near the gym, alone in the corner with a black coffee and no phone, watching the street like a man who owned the weather. He always sat with his back to the wall and his eyes on the door. She did not understand why yet. She only knew he chose the same seat every time, a man who never let the room get behind him. Her first instinct was to leave. Her second, the new one the gym had built, was to walk over and order standing right next to him and refuse to give him the satisfaction of being avoided. He looked up at her, and the stone face did something it had clearly forgotten how to do. It softened. You did not apologize, he said. About the water. Neither did you. She shot back, and to her complete astonishment, he laughed. It was a short, surprised sound, like it had escaped him against orders, and it changed his entire face. He gestured at the empty chair. She did not sit. She made him ask twice, because the new Tammy did not come when summoned, and the asking twice was the moment something real began between them, though neither would have admitted it under torture. They talked for 2 hours, and she forgot to be guarded. He did not ask the questions men usually asked her. He asked what she was training for, and when she said herself, he nodded like that was the only correct answer. She noticed the careful blank space where his work should have been, the way his phone buzzed, and he turned it face down without looking. She filed it away, but she stayed. It became a habit before either of them named it. He started bringing her small things. Never flowers, never anything obvious. A particular tea she had mentioned once, set on the table without comment, as if admitting he had listened would cost him something. He never touched her. He walked her to her door, and stopped at a careful distance every time, and the not touching became its own slow, unbearable tension. One night, he brought her up to where he lived. The elevator climbed past the 40th floor, past every number she had ever lived near, and her stomach dropped with each one, the careful blank space around his life finally filling in around her. The penthouse said everything his mouth never had. She stood at his glass wall looking down at a city that looked like spilled gold, and she asked him, finally, without turning around, what exactly it was that he did. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he told her a version of the truth, enough of it, and she understood that the man she had been laughing with ran things most people only whispered about. Any sane woman would have run. She thought about it, but this man had never once made her feel small. Dangerous, yes. Small, never. She turned to face him, and the distance he always kept was suddenly the only thing left between them. He did not close it. Neither did she. They stood on the edge of it, both too proud and too scarred to be the one who fell first. Then he stepped back and told her his driver would take her home. After his driver dropped her off, she sat on her own bed in the dark and pressed her hand to the place on her face where his almost touch had hovered, furious that she could still feel the heat of a hand that never landed. It was not rejection. It was two people who had each been burned learning, slowly, that this one might be worth the fire. Something had shifted, and it was not just her heart. The work was paying off in a way she could no longer hide from herself. Her clothes fit differently. She had not done it for him, not for Hyung-ji, and certainly not for Marcus. She had done it for the woman on the kitchen floor who swore never again. She caught herself standing taller in the mirror wall, shoulders back, head high, a woman she half recognized from years ago and half met for the first time. But she would be lying if she said the way Hyung-ji looked at her did not put an extra rep in every set. She bought the dress herself. Just a woman walking into a boutique she once would have hurried past and choosing something gold because she had finally decided she deserved to shine in it. Nia was the one who told her to post the photo. The woman in the mirror was not a smaller version of the old Tammy. She was a stronger one, curves and softness all still there but carried now like a crown instead of an apology. Post it, Nia said. Not for him. For the version of you that thought she would never smile again. Nia could not hold the phone steady. She was laughing so hard. The two of them on that terrace at golden hour, taking 40 photos to get the one. Tammy looked at it for a long time. Then she posted it. It went further than she ever expected. The comments poured in hundreds then thousands. For one perfect evening it was pure, uncomplicated joy. She should have known that the whole world included the one person she least wanted looking. Marcus Reed saw the photo on a Tuesday night, and he could not look away. He scrolled her whole feed, and the more the city praised her, the tighter his jaw set. A man watching something he discarded become something he could no longer afford. Something ugly and possessive woke up in him that he mistook, as men like him always do, for love. He did not know about the man with the stone face. He picked up his phone and started typing. His name on her screen did not hurt the way she had feared. It made her cold. I have been thinking about you. You look incredible. I think I made a mistake. Can we talk? No apology. Just want. Naked and entitled, as if the months of darkness he had buried her in had never happened. Her heart sat there steady and slow, 62 beats a minute, the same funeral rhythm from the night he broke her. Except this time, she was the one burying something. She typed 3 words back and put the phone down. She told Hyung-ji because she was done hiding things from people who mattered. He went very still, the way he did when something at work needed handling, and asked her one quiet question. Do you want him to stop? She said yes. He nodded once, like a door closing. A man like Hyung-ji did not make threats. He made arrangements. 3 words had not stopped Marcus. They had challenged him. He showed up in person, at her gym, certain that one look at his face would undo all her resolve. He found her by the entrance, glowing, and gave her the smile that used to work. He told her she looked good enough to forgive him. He reached for her arm like it was still his to reach for. She did not slap him. She did something that hurt him far more. She laughed. It was free, the laugh of a woman who has finally understood that the man in front of her never had the power she once handed him. She told him the only mistake in their story was how long she let him narrate it. His smile curdled. Then a car door closed behind her, soft and expensive, and a shadow fell across them both. Hyung-ji did not raise his voice. He never had to. He stepped between them, put himself at Tammy's shoulder, and looked at Marcus with the flat, patient attention of a man reading a contract he had already decided not to sign. He asked Tammy, quietly, if this was the one. She said it was. Marcus, who had spent his whole life being the most important man in any room, felt the ground tilt and made the single worst decision of his life. Instead of reading the danger in that stillness, he puffed his chest and asked Hyung-ji who he thought he was. The driver, still by the car, went pale. That was the tell Marcus should have caught. But he was too deep in his own pride. Hyung-ji simply told him his name, quiet and complete, the way you set down a loaded thing on a table. And Tammy watched the color drain out of Marcus's face as recognition arrived, because even a man like Marcus knew that name, knew what it touched. For 1 second, Marcus was just a frightened man on a sidewalk. Then something worse happened. He smiled. It was the smile of a man remembering that he, too, had cards to play. He told Hyung-ji he knew exactly who he was and that he did not care because his own family name opened doors that even Hyung-ji's could not. Ask around about the Reeds, he said softly. Before you make an enemy, you cannot afford. And just like that, it was not a love story anymore. It was a war. Hyung-ji's expression did not change, but Tammy, who could now read every microshift in that stone face, saw the one thing she had never seen there before. He had not known. The name Reed had landed on him too. That pause frightened her more than any threat Marcus could have made. That night Hyung-ji looked into the Reeds, and he did not like what he found. The family was not loud, but it was old, and it was wired into places even he had been careful around, courts and councils and quiet rooms where decisions got made. It came faster and harder than anyone expected. Permits Hyung-ji relied on vanished. Partners stopped returning his calls. Doors that had stood open his entire life swung shut in a single week. For the first time since Tammy had known him, she saw him worried, the stillness gone brittle at the edges. She begged him to walk away from her, to save himself, to let her go. He refused. He told her that he had spent his whole life being feared, and she was the first person who had ever simply made him want to stay. And Marcus, sensing blood, stopped playing at romance entirely and started playing to destroy. Marcus called a meeting. He framed it as a truce. It was a trap. He chose the most exclusive restaurant in the city and invited Hyung-ji to discuss terms like gentlemen. Tammy begged him not to go. He went anyway because a man in his position cannot be seen to hide. He told her to wait at the penthouse. She did not wait. She followed, an hour behind, her heart already pounding at 160. The room was too quiet. The staff were gone. That was the first wrong thing. Marcus smiled and told him the Reeds did not negotiate with men who touched what belonged to them. From the shadows along the wall, figures Hyung-ji had not accounted for stepped into the candlelight. He was outnumbered. He had come alone, as a matter of pride, and pride, tonight, was going to cost him everything. What happened next happened fast, and Tammy arrived just in time to see the worst of it. She pushed through the front of the restaurant to the sound of breaking glass and reached the private room as the door swung open. The sight of it stopped her heart cold. Hyung-ji, the immovable man, the one who emptied rooms with his name, was down. They had not given him a fair fight. They never intended to. Marcus stood over him straightening his cuffs, calm as a man who had just finished a meal, and he looked up and saw Tammy frozen in the doorway, and his smile widened because now she was watching. She ran to him. Marcus let her. That was the cruelest part, the letting. He allowed her to fall to her knees beside the man she loved because the lesson was the point. This is what happens, Marcus told her softly, when you choose wrong. He crouched to her level, close enough that she could smell the same cologne from 2 years of her life, and told her she could still fix it. Come back to him, and all of this stopped. Refuse, and the Reeds would finish what they started. This was the moment Marcus had wanted all along, not her love, her surrender.
No, she said.
One word. The same word she had typed him weeks ago, and it had not bent then either. She would not crawl back into the cage she had spent months clawing out of, not even to save him, because she knew he would rather lose everything than watch her do it. Marcus's face hardened. He had offered her mercy, and she had thrown it back, and now his pride demanded she pay for it. He straightened his jacket. He told his men to finish it. And Tammy threw her body over Hyung-ji's and waited for the end. But the end did not come. Instead, the lights went out. Every light in the restaurant died at once. In the dark, Hyung-ji found her hand and pressed his cracked phone into it, and against her palm, she felt the slick screen still warm, a call still connected, a call he had made the second he understood it was a trap. He had not come alone after all. He had made one phone call to the one person in the world who owed him a debt that could never be repaid. She heard Marcus shout, heard his men shout, heard heavy doors slam open somewhere beyond the private room. Whoever was on the other end of that call had come, and they had not come quietly. She understood two things at once. The first was that Hyung-ji had a card no one, not Marcus, not the Reeds, not even Tammy, had ever seen. The second was that she had no idea whether this last desperate gamble was about to save them both or get them both killed. Headlights flooded the dark street outside, more of them than she could count. A figure filled the dark doorway, backlit by those blinding headlights, and Marcus's triumphant voice cut off mid-word into something Tammy had never heard from him before.
Fear.
Tammy's whole life had taught her that rescue was something you did for yourself. Tonight, in the dark, she did not know who had walked through that door, or whose side they were on, or whether the Det Hyung Ji had called and would buy their lives or end them. So here is where I have to leave you. With him down on a restaurant floor, with everything she fought for hanging by a thread, with a stranger in the doorway, and the one card no one saw coming about to turn face up in the dark. If you need to know who walked through that door, and I know you do, then comment part 2 right now, and say it like you mean it. The louder this comment section gets, the faster part 2 comes. Tell me you need it. Because what that silhouette does in the next 60 seconds changes everything, and I promise you, you will never guess who it is.